Yes, well, this is one of the big reasons why they had to destroy Donald Trump and why they're still intent on destroying Donald Trump, because he was not one of them. He was not part of the ruling class. He owed no one anything, and he had never done any of this before. And he comes in and he actually began solving America's problems, which all politicians on both sides say they're interested in doing. Elect me every 2, 4, 6 years, and I'll solve our problems. Trump comes in and he actually began doing it. He delivered a booming economy with pro-growth economic agenda, and he delivered world peace. Booming economy and world peace, frankly, I don't know what more you expect from an American president.
Welcome to Kevin's Corner's workshop on how to determine if a politician is either incompetent or just pure evil. Before we get into this video, make sure you hit like, share my videos, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Also, make sure that your notifications are on and they're set to all. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all hear that? Donald Trump was a politician that was also a businessman. Came in, started his job off running. He didn't come in slow walking it. He defined what a politician should be. Not someone that gets in there and just simply identifies problems without ever solving them, or someone who comes in and have no intentions on solving any of those problems, or even worse, more cynical, is a politician that knows the only reason I can stay in business as a politician is if there are problems. So let me make policies that create problems, or even worse, let me neglect solving the problems so that this way it would trap people into voting for me. And the worst thing of it all is when you start blaming other people for your job and your incompetency and your responsibility and all of that stuff. The way we're going to handle this, y'all, today is we're going to do a little comparison. We're going to go ahead and break this down psychologically and try to figure out how can we identify a politician that is incompetent versus just evil, greedy, and power hungry. Now let's get into this. But first, quick commercial here. You probably tried different investments in stocks and mutual funds, so then you know that they can be volatile and very unpredictable. But with inflation running at its highest rates in 40 years, do you want volatility and uncertainty? I think not. Being able to sleep at night knowing that your investment isn't about to crash is worth its weight in gold. Speaking of gold, if you've been jumping from one investment deal to the next, a gold IRA with Noble Gold is perfect just for you. A reliable hedge against inflation just fell into our laps. With gold, you can shield your gains from taxes. You can keep the real value of your wealth. You own a global asset, something tangible, and you can help protect your wealth against an economic crash. So then what's not to like? And this month, for every IRA above 20K, you'll get an incredible 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin, completely free, just as a thank you. And all you got to do is call 877-646-5347 now just to find out more about it, or you can visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That is noblegoldinvestments.com. Now let's get to this video. I'm gonna try my best to make sense out of this nonsense. I'm gonna help somebody. This is gonna be the workshop given to all of those that watch my channel, or even to people who don't watch my channel, but they might use this video to help them to determine how to pick a good politician, how to look past personality and look at policies, productivity, all of those things. And we're going to do a little experiment on how to identify the difference between a politician that is incompetent versus a politician that is simply evil. See, it can get very cloudy and muddy, especially when you look at gaslighting and you look at all of the manipulation of the media and all of the pivoting and the diverting attention away from issues and all of that stuff. It could make one think that these politicians are doing their best. That's right. Do you think they're going to come out and tell you that, yeah, I stink, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm even doing something that is hurting you on purpose, but I'll never let you know that? They're not going to do that. So they always got a misplaced to blame. And the way that you can cipher through all of that, all of those narratives being thrown at you, is use some simple techniques, some common sense, such as if a politician says that they're going to solve some problems and then everything they do regarding that problem is opposite of solving the problem, that's a good way that you could tell if that politician is either incompetent versus evil. And I'm going to help you know the difference. Look at the outcome. Just simply put yourself in the shoes of someone who comes into a job interview and they tell you all of these problems we're about to identify. And then you decide, okay, once I get on a job, I'm going to go through A, B, C, D, all these steps that I think will eliminate the problem or solve it. But for some reason, all of those steps seem to be counterproductive to solving the problem. One might conclude that you might be there sabotaging my company, if you know what I mean. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to get to the bottom of this. So welcome to my Help Identify Raggedy Politicians workshop. We're going to first start off with an obvious problem in America, which is, of course, crime. So let's see what would be a logical response to some of the crime that's going on around the United States. Here we go.
Here we sit on the floor of the House of Representatives, and we're talking about allegedly crime, but we're not talking about, of the 17,000 homicides last year, the 800 homicides in Chicago, the 562 homicides in Philadelphia,
62?
the 89 homicides in Austin, Texas, blowing away the former record of 59 homicides. In the 12 major cities that broke their homicide records in 2021, all have Democratic mayors.
No, wait just a minute. That's the first thing you want to do when identifying whether politicians are incompetent or they're evil, is do some comparisons. The same politicians that are running around telling you that, the problems in the black community is the responsibility of other politicians that aren't a part of their party, but yet they're the ones solely responsible for the territory where all the problems are taking place. That should be your number one indicator. Why would they be over my neighborhood or my city and yet misplacing the blame on somebody else that ain't got nothing to do with my neighborhood or my city? If their policies are counterproductive to the needs of the people in their city, then they're probably evil and want you to remain in those conditions, so you'll also remain loyal to vote for them. Perfect example, Democrats aren't for charter schools. Now, you would think, since they always talking about they don't like segregation and all of that mess, they would do everything they could to make sure little minority kids was able to go to better schools. But for some reason, they don't want that to happen. That's counterproductive. Why wouldn't you want that to happen? Unless you are evil and you are bought and paid for by the unions. See, little simple things. They talk about they want gun restrictions and we want all of this stuff done because we care about the kids being killed and stuff like that. Well, all you have to do is say, well, are the solutions that the Democrats are presenting to attack crime or to attack these mass shootings that take place periodically, are they practical, realistic solutions? Simple as that. So what are they suggesting? Stricter gun laws. Well, wait a minute. These cities that Chip just mentioned, many of them have the most strictest gun laws in the nation, but yet they're still rocking that high crime rate. You have to ask yourself, why? If you already got the layout and the prototype to making sure that people are being vetted properly when they go get a gun, then why in the world should we adopt your policies when your policies have proven not to work? The other thing you might ask yourself is, if they're really trying to deal with making sure lives are safe, then that means they should be looking at some very objective data, not just some data that will support one particular narrative that they're looking for. So we better help them, see, because if they can't look at this data and make sense of it, then you might not want to trust them in regards to posing potential solutions to the problem, because it might just be that they're offering these solutions to these problems because they want something else besides just what they're calling, just a common sense gun control. So let's just see how common sense it is and go over some stats, which is like holy water on a vampire to Democrats. The first thing that they always do is they point out a specific gun that is used sometimes in these type of shootings. And that gun is what they're calling an assault rifle, which there's no definition of an assault rifle. And you got to be careful, see, because when they start saying assault rifle and get you thinking about an AR-15 or, an AK-47, and then they break that down to just assault weapons, if you're not careful, you will surrender your ability to carry and protect yourself, thinking that when they say we want to get those assault rifles off the streets, then they change it to assault weapons. Well, tell me one weapon that's not an assault weapon. Whatever I got to use in that situation becomes an assault whatever. If I got to punch you in the face, this is an assault fist. If I need a slingshot, it's an assault slingshot. So every gun can be an assault weapon. That's the first thing you have to understand when they're trying to get your brain all jumbled up and emotional. But secondly, you got to ask yourself, why, if that particular gun is used in a very minute part of murders by gun in America, why do y'all always go after that one? So let's look at some stats. The Gun Violence Archives, an online database of gun violence incidents in the U.S., defines mass shootings as incidents in which 4 or more people are shot, even if no one was killed, again excluding the shooters. Using this definition, 513 people died in these incidents in 2020. So 513 people were victims of what they're defining as a mass shooting. Okay, so that's what again? 4 people. Okay, 4 people, 4 plus. So regardless of the definition being used, fatalities and mass shootings incidents in the U.S. account for a small fraction of gun murders that occur nationwide each year. So now we see then, when it comes down to all of the murders by gun in the U.S. per year, the smallest fraction are people that are victims of mass shootings, or 4 or more, people being a victim. So then who makes up the whole rest of it? That's my question. Why are y'all picking the smallest percentage of people getting killed by guns under the title of a mass shooting and overlooking the other large amount? So we better take a deeper dive into this. In 2020, 54% of all gun-related deaths in the U.S. were suicides. What? And 24,292, while 43% were murders. 19,384 murders according to the CDC. Now, wait a minute. If 54% of all the folks murdered by gun was suicide, then shouldn't we be focused on that? Doesn't that seem like a bigger threat than these random, every once in a while, mass shootings? But yet, for some reason, these Democrats overlook the larger percent. They would overlook the folks that you probably should focus all of your attention on. That would be like, you know what? I show up, a boat sinking. Okay, one boat over here is sinking and it got 3,000 people on it. But the other boat next to it only has 5. And for some reason, all of my attention goes to the boat with 5 people. Yeah, I'll get to the 3,000 whenever I can. But right now, we got to work on these 5. And we're going to use those 5 as justification to remove boats from every person in the country. Because 5 people on a boat, sunk, and yet all of a sudden now we can't sell boats no more? Let's continue where this goes, man. Nobody knows. Probably to some logic. Let's see. Here we go. In 2020, handguns were involved in 59% of the 13,620 U.S. gun murders and non-negligent manslaughters, for which database is available according to the FBI. Rifles, the category that includes guns, sometimes referred to as assault weapons, were involved in 3% of firearm murders. 3%? Now you would think it was responsible for like 95%. When you see them rush to the microphone after one of these shootings take place and say, we got to get that assault rifle off the market for 3%, don't you think maybe perhaps you're overlooking the other 97%? Well, let's go ahead and continue. Shotguns were involved in 1%. The remaining of gun homicides and non-negligent manslaughters, which is 36%, involved other kinds of firearms or classified as type not stated. So if I'm understanding this correctly, 59% of all the murders in the U.S. is done with handguns, but yet why are the Democrats going after those AR-15? If they're only responsible, and that's not even saying they're AR-15s, they could be shotguns as well, only responsible for, 3% of all the deaths by gun, and 59% are by handguns? So you have to ask yourself the first question. If you're a politician who's trying to solve a problem and that is your approach, then either you are very incompetent and don't know how to look at this and break this down rationally and prioritize this, or you're evil and got another diabolical plan. Meaning this, if you're going after the most likely gun that a lot of group of people who might resist tyranny would own, then it probably means that you are using these random shootings as an excuse to disarm the large amount of citizens that might resist tyranny. Because if you were really trying to solve gun violence, you would start with the 59% and you would go into Democrat-ran cities and start confiscating all of those handguns responsible for the mass majority of people shot and killed by guns. And then 40-something% are suicides, which leaves 3%. So yet y'all are wanting to disarm all of Americans that might own a AR-15 or a long gun based off of 3% of the murders that occur in the United States buy guns. Now, is that a rational approach to a problem? No. So then that means they want those guns either because they're very incompetent or they're evil. And I'm not going to let them off the hook of being evil. I'm not going to give the Democrat Party and other politicians like that the benefit of the doubt by saying that they don't know what they're doing. They're dumb. They're incompetent. No, they know what they're doing. They're evil and they're diabolical. Let's move on to the next example.
Secretary Granholm, today in the state of Missouri, the average price of gasoline today, as of this morning, is $4.10. Average price of diesel is $5.18. And I'm sure you've seen the reporting this morning that now AAA is projecting that gas prices will hit a national average of $6 a gallon by the month of August.
$6 too buku, so brother. You trying to make people pay $6 a gallon out in California? Now, this is what you do to identify whether they're incompetent or are they evil. First things first, you identify the problem. The problem is high gas prices. So now you have to say to yourself, well, how do you approach a problem like that? So if you're a politician and your job is to bring down the gas prices, then what things are being done that would help you accomplish that versus things that are being done that works counterproductive towards your goal and objective, right? So if your job description is to make sure we have enough supplies, enough gas, transportation, everything's in order, if that's your job description, now you have to ask yourself, well, if this is my job description, I have to base my choices off of my job description. That's how I will be judged on how productive I am. Here's my job description. Here's the problem I'm supposed to be solving under the job description. That's the second thing you got to ask yourself when judging if this is a raggedy politician or not. Number 3, the policies and the decisions that are being made by whoever is responsible for solving the problem, and ask yourself, what type of outcome am I getting from this? Is this making the problem worse or is it solving the problem? Okay, just like we heard in the opening, Donald Trump solved problems.
Is this acceptable to you?
No, it is not. And you can thank the activity of Vladimir Putin for invading Ukraine and pulling essentially those big
with all due respect, Madam Secretary, that's utter nonsense.
Yes, it is utter nonsense that this lady would throw that excuse out there. Now, of course, guys, we have to check her work. See, we're not going to be that teacher that allows that kid to bring his math paper up there, stick it on our desk, and somehow came to the solution but didn't show his work. How'd you get there? How'd you get that number? Huh? What did you do to work through to get that number? You might have cheated. See, so now we're going to have to go ahead and have this woman show her work. Let's look at all of the things that either were done or not done that contributed to the problem. Okay.
Well, let me ask you a question. We're talking about the extent to which the American people are hurting. You talked about the baby formula. We're talking about the border, wide open borders, fentanyl pouring in, American people dying. What about the fact that gasoline prices are skyrocketing, energy prices are going up, and we know we are producing 55 million fewer barrels of oil in February of 2022 than we did in February of 2020.
What?
That the United States is expected to revert to being a net oil importer in 2022 after we had become a net oil exporter. In March 2020 debate, President Biden said, quote, no more drilling on federal lands, no more drilling, including offshore, no ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period.
That sounds counterproductive. If you are trying to make sure that the American people have enough gas and gas prices remain fairly low, well, by stopping them from drilling would probably increase gas. It appears to me that that decision was counterproductive to the goal, to making sure we're able to afford this mess. But, you know, let's not just stop with that. Might be just one thing that they did. Here we go. Let's see what else they've done.
Yeah, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they don't want to talk about that.
What?
Because they know full well it is precisely the policies of the administration to purposely limit the ability to produce oil and gas in this country that is empowering Putin to go after Ukraine and that is damaging the price of gas at the pump and harming the American people. And our Democrat colleagues sit silent because they worship at the altar of the green agenda.
Chip, are you telling me that this was done on purpose? Because it does sound that way when they try to tell us it's Vladimir Putin. Yet their choices show the opposite of what they're saying their goal and objective is. That should be my first indicator that you know what to do. You're doing the opposite. Now, why? Why are you doing the opposite? Could it be that you're evil? Or am I supposed to believe that these people are that incompetent and that dumb? So that's just one thing that they did. Let's get back to what Senator Hawley was asking this lady with those huge jumbo baby New Year ears.
With respect, sir, it is not administration policies that have affected supply and demand.
How can you say that when the price of gas was up over 30% from January to... you answer my questions. And it's my time, Madam Secretary. So why don't you answer my question?
You understand that, baby New Year's ears? It's his time. Okay. But secondly, notice what happened. Hawley identified the problem. She's supposed to be the person solving the problem. And what does she do? Say it's not a problem. At least it's not my fault. Okay. Yeah. Even though these choices directly hindered us making progress and solving the problem, I'm going to blame it on Vladimir Putin, or I'm going to blame it on something else. That defies all type of rationale and logic, especially that the gas prices were going up prior to Putin invading darn Ukraine. So then it got to be some other choice. And you know what? Let's go back to Chip. Maybe he can help us out here.
Because that is their agenda, not the benefit of the American people, not the ability to drive your car, go to work, take care of your family, afford gas, afford the goods and services that are going up because the diesel prices are going up, the inflation that is skyrocketing, because they refuse to open up American oil and gas, which we sit on a bevy of, and is enormously important for our national security and the national security of our friends around the world. And I know that the gentleman being from Pennsylvania is well aware of the absurd energy policies that are harming the American people because they worship at the altar of the Green New Deal and the Green Agenda.
So, Chip, are you telling me that these people know how to solve the problem, but their choices have made the problem worse, and they're lying to our faces trying to say it's not our fault? That then would make them evil and diabolical, not incompetent. So, the things that they could be doing to solve the issue, they're doing the opposite. They're not that dumb. I know Democrats are dumb, but they're not that dumb. But they are that evil. Let's go back to Hawley.
And here's what your president did when he first came to office. He immediately re-entered the Paris Climate Accord. He canceled the Keystone Pipeline. He halted leasing programs in Anwar. He issued a 60-day halt on all new oil and gas leases and drilling permits on federal lands and waters. That's nationwide. That accounts, by the way, for 25% of U.S. oil production. He directed federal agencies to eliminate all supports for fossil fuels. He imposed new regulations on oil and gas and methane emissions. Those were all just in the first few days. Are you telling me that's had no effect on our energy supply?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, how can you even deny that list of things that the Biden administration did? Every single one of those were counterproductive to what they're claiming they're trying to solve. So then how can you justify this? If all of those decisions appear to be the opposite of you trying to solve the problem, I have to conclude that you are purposely sabotaging the company that hired you to solve the problem. If you put it in a natural sense of just a capitalistic company, if I hire you to work at Kenny Shoes and I find out that you're doing everything to make sure I don't sell Kenny Shoes and you're supposed to be increasing sales, I'm probably going to conclude either you don't know what you're doing or you've been planted there to sabotage me from selling more shoes. So I'm wondering about these Democrats. Oh, but you know what? Let's go to another example.
This is because we are at the beginning of implementing the Green New Deal, forcing it on Americans, not letting you make the choice, but letting policymakers in Washington, D.C. determine how your life's going to be. And while the president says in this very body, they want to have a vote on price gouging. Meanwhile, we're not allowing the people that produce the gas and oil that we desperately need to keep our energy economy going. Our country runs on energy. The president is saying no more leases. Not one pipeline's being built. Whoa. No more leases. No more refining.
None of that?
It's not happening. And actually said that we're producing more gas and oil than ever before in history. But you just gave them the numbers, Mr. Roy. You just gave us the numbers. It's actually less. And you're going to pay more for every single gallon that you buy. You're going to pay more. And this is all by design. They don't want you to have the choice. They actually want to force you to drive an electric vehicle. And as long as we're talking about energy and the lack thereof, Mr. Roy, your state, it was just reported in your state to be prepared for blackouts and brownouts because there's going to be a lack of electricity production. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 21st century. America knows how to produce energy. We know how to make electricity, know how to transport it.
So I think what this man just did is establish a motive for their evilness. Now, I'm just saying, think about it like this, guys. Like the villain and also the hero. If I'm the villain and my goal is to force everyone to move towards Green New Deal or force everyone to adopt cars that run off of batteries or whatever, abandon their big old man trucks and stuff like that. And I thought that they might give me some pushback if I tried to do it the regular way. Then I might sabotage it another way, so that this way they can't blame me for doing it. But all of my choices, though, are counterproductive to helping the people, but instead it all seems to guide them towards another conclusion. As soon as this hits, you see them grabbing the microphones, telling everybody to go out and buy a Tesla, go out and buy a battery operated car. Oh, this is a great opportunity for us to push the climate agenda and this and that. This is great for the Great Reset. So if they can't get us to make that change naturally and organically, then wouldn't it make sense if they were evil to do it in another seedy way, a way that folks could look at it and say, well, it's not their fault, it's Putin's. Or perhaps, oh, those Biden people, they're incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. No, they know what they're doing. They're not incompetent. They're evil. Let's continue.
But yet it's happening in California, and now it's going to start cascading across the country because of the policy decisions of the Green New Deal and those who worship at the altar of this, this agenda, this green agenda that forces us to take these things that we can't afford and are inefficient and ineffective.
This green agenda that has us having to bow down to China in order to get the minerals and the resources in order to make solar panels and wind farms. But if you look at Texas, which produces as much wind as any state in the country.
Now, wait a minute, Chip. Are you telling me when Joe Biden came out there and said, true international depression, isolate and punish China, that didn't mean that? You telling me he ain't gonna really hit him with some true international depression, isolate and punish China? He's not really gonna do that? That is very interesting, since China is one of our main rival, actually, and yet all of their choices are counterproductive of making sure that we are independent from China, that we don't need them to make stuff and manufacture stuff for us. They're not making choices that would appear to be bringing jobs back to America from China. They're not making choices that appear to hold China accountable for manipulating their currency, messing with us on trade deals, increasing their military, buying up everything all over the globe. Every decision that the Biden administration is making appears to be benefiting other countries more than it is us. But yet they're blaming other countries for these problems. I'm starting to question whether they're incompetent or evil. See where I'm going with this? Let's continue.
Texas only had 17% wind production from its wind farms last week, which was a big chunk of the problem that we had in terms of energy production. Our grid is over-reliant on wind and solar, and when you have a windless, cloudy day, what do you need? You need fossil fuels. What else do you need? Nuclear power. Do you know how much nuclear power or fossil fuel generation we have in the pipeline, so to speak, right now across this country or even in Texas? Minuscule, because of the worshiping of this ridiculous agenda. Do you know how many coal-fired plants they have in China? Something like 1,100.
Opening one a week.
And opening one a week. Do you know how many coal-fired plants we're opening in this country? Zippo.
Zero.
Do you know what kind of rules we have coming out right now to hammer the coal industry in Texas and elsewhere? Massive rules. Do you know what that means for the American people? No energy, lower energy, higher costs. That's 100% true and provable.
So then, if that's 100% true and provable, how then could the lady with the big elf ears come out and tell us that their policies have not contributed to these high gas prices? Well, that's because she's gaslighting everybody. That's because she's aware of the policies and the choices made by the Biden administration that made those prices go high. They're not trying to solve the problem. They're using the problem to solve another problem for them, which is getting us to adopt a new way of life by bringing in this new green agenda, as these men right here are pointing out. So therefore, if you're doing that and yet you know that you can solve the issue, but you're choosing not to, then it's not a matter of you being incompetent. It's a matter of you being evil. So whenever you vote for a politician, always run them through that test. Are you incompetent or are you evil? Let's continue with our workshop.
That's exactly right, Madam Chairman. This is the American people see and are feeling it every single day when they go to the gas pumps, when they've got to get their kids to soccer games and multiple activities, driving back and forth that they can't afford to fill up their gas tanks anymore, for being able to buy groceries if you can find them, and heaven forbid you're a family that's got a small child that needs formula.
Formula? Okay, y'all, here's another problem. So let's identify the problem. Lack of formula in America. Baby formula. Okay, lack of baby formula. Now, how do we get there? See, remember, guys, they're not going to come out and say we messed it up or we purposely did it or whatever. Instead, they're going to give us excuses. So now we got to take a deep dive into finding out what choices were made that led or contributed to the problem. And did those choices line up with your goal and objective to solve the problem, or did it make it worse? Let's get it here. We're going to use Steve Hilton to enlighten us about those choices. Here we go.
While here at home, inflation soars, the stock market crashes, the border's wide open, and the baby formula shortage is now expected to last for months. More than Biden's border crisis, more than Biden's inflation crisis, both of those the consequence of deliberate ideological choices. The Biden baby crisis proves beyond any doubt that this Biden regime, the whole rotten crew of Obama retreads, swamp time servers and juvenile activists, is totally unserious and completely incompetent. It was in February, 3 months ago, that the nation's largest baby formula producer closed its Michigan factory because of a contamination scare. The Food and Drug Administration, part of the federal government and run by Biden appointee Dr. Robert Califf, was fully involved in the decision to close the plant. Within the cabinet, the FDA and this issue are the responsibility of these men, HHS Secretary Javier Becerra and Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack.
So now we just identified the people hired to deal with these problems, right? Not to mention they had a head start on the problem, okay? This problem didn't just fall into their lap. They've been aware of this problem for 3 months now. So now you have to ask yourself, if you had a head start on solving the problem, if you were clairvoyant enough to see it coming down the pipeline and your job is to solve it, what choices were made or not made that allowed the problem to still exist, especially if you saw it coming?
Dr. Robert Califf and Secretary Becerra and Secretary Vilsack have been on the case. They've been trying to fix the baby formula crisis. In fact, the White House told us that in a statement issued last Thursday. They have been, quote, working diligently to solve the problem. And not just Dr. Robert and Javier Becerra and Tom Vilsack. Oh, no, it's been all hands on deck. The Department of Justice, Department of Transportation, U.S. Trade Representative, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Commerce, the White House. They've all been working diligently. And in fact, they've been working diligently, quote, over the last few months.
So you telling me that they're working diligently? What is their definition of that? That's my question. I mean, it sounds to me like you had a whole bunch of monkey shine in there, a whole bunch of them running around like, yeah. And if anybody is in there that happens to be black, I'm not calling you a monkey for all the liberals who can't understand the analogy of how monkeys are very playful and act a fool constantly and are never serious. Okay. All right. That's what I'm illustrating. It sounds like y'all were a whole bunch of monkeys running around in there doing nothing but scratching each other's back and eating mites and stuff out of each other's fur. Because no results have come of all of that work and that head start, except for the problem is now here and there's no solution. Now, why are these supposed competent men still working on solving the problem? Or did they work on creating the problem and now they won't solve it?
To address the baby formula crisis. Brilliant. Except, wait a minute, the crisis is now. A few months ago, when all these people started working diligently, there actually wasn't a crisis. There was just a closed factory. So somehow these geniuses, by working diligently, managed to turn a closure into a crisis. Their response to a sudden massive interruption to the supply of one of the most vital products imaginable for America's families wasn't to get the Michigan factory up and running. They're saying that's still weeks away. It wasn't to get extra supply from other US producers. It wasn't to try and find replacement supply from other countries. They continued to block imports.
So wait a minute. All of those solutions that Steve Hilton just listed, they didn't do. If they would have did those things, that would have solved the problem. So why didn't they do it? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are these folks that dumb? Just put it in this context. If that was their children needing baby food, if that was their daughters, nieces, grandchildren, and they were saying, Daddy, we need baby food. That baby, he needs a certain type of food or he has an allergy that might kill him. Do you think they would have not solved that problem? They would have bent over backwards to make sure that we were ahead of the game concerning this problem. But they didn't. So are they that incompetent? Gotta understand. We are the US. We have lots of resources, vast resources. But yet you're telling me that these people can't solve this problem. Or they just don't want to solve it. Let's continue.
For months, with massive tariffs and pointless regulations. It wasn't even to invoke the Defense Production Act they never stopped going on about during the pandemic. The Biden regime's response, they tell us, was working diligently for months. And this is the result. panic and despair for millions of families.
So you telling me, Steve, that they was working for nothing? That's what they were doing. All of those months and nothing to show for it. You were working for nothing. They would have been better off not telling us that. They'd have been better off saying, man, we just found out about this morning. Because now you look real either incompetent or diabolical or evil or even worse. All of those. So, those choices that Steve just went over that they didn't do makes me wonder, why didn't you do it? Are you incompetent? Did you not know about it? You didn't do no consulting? Nothing? It wasn't a sense of urgency? Or are you okay with the problem? Which would make you evil?
But at least we now know what working diligently means. It means creating a crisis. And actually, it explains the entire Biden regime. They've been working diligently on inflation, working diligently at the border. They really worked diligently on the withdrawal from Afghanistan. That was super diligent.
Wow.
Is this what they meant when they told us the grown-ups were back in charge? They're so incompetent, they're now even admitting they've known about it since last year.
From everything I've known, and FDA has kept me apprised of this from last year, we have been moving as quickly as we can.
As quickly as you can? We've gone from warp speed with Trump to car crash under Biden.
Well, there you have it, from Steve Hilton himself. So now, these Biden administrators and stuff can't solve basic problems, and all you see across the board with them are problems that occurred due to their choices or lack of choices. Not to mention, it's crisis after crisis after crisis. Now, are they that unlucky? I mean, you always have to ask yourself, if they're diabolical and they're not solving one problem, then why aren't they doing it? And are they chasing us in a different direction to get another goal and objective met by creating a crisis over here, saying, run, everyone, run over here. Not seeing that the solution to their real problem is you going this way, running away from the safety, running away from what you really have chosen or what you were comfortable with. What they like to do is say, let's work in chaos like hyenas. Let's get everybody stirred up, confused, scared, cause all this type of panic, and then we strike. Because you can't tell me in 3 months, these eggheads couldn't solve that problem. I'm starting to believe all of the things Steve Hilton just listed, they created those problems. But let's continue. Let's see another problem that they can't fix for some reason.
No extra money for that, Mr. Roy.
Oh.
No extra money for Americans.
No.
I just got an update from the border showing that Border Patrol is building a new soft-sided tent compound in Eagle Pass, Texas. Another picture of it shows big tent with chain link fences up. Remember the kids in cages?
Yeah.
Chain link fences up. And it says it's roughly 215,000 square feet, which is almost 5 acres. So to the gentleman's point, why would they be doing that?
That's the question you should be asking yourself. Does building that tent solve the problem or contribute to the problem? Does that have a outcome that you want? If your job description says you're supposed to keep the border secure and safe, and yet instead of building a wall, you go build a huge tent. That sounds to me like you're preparing for guests. That sounds like you are preparing somewhere for them to be out of the rain and the elements, and we can process these people under this huge tent behind this fence so that folks won't see what we're really doing. Because if you were really trying to solve the problem, you would be building a wall. You would be making these folks stay in Mexico. You would be making sure that these people did not have any other reason to come here, meaning none of our policies have said, come on, hurry up. But every decision that they're making eliminates things that solve the problem and implementing things that would create a bigger problem. They are enabling the problem based on their choices. So now we done built a tent for them and all. Chip, say it isn't so. Because that doesn't make any sense. So now I have to ask myself, what are they really up to if they're not really solving the problem? Are they dumb or are they evil?
Why would Secretary Mayorkas be ordering Border Patrol to build a 5-acre tent facility in Eagle Pass, Texas?
Well, you know why.
I know exactly why. Could it be because they believe their mission is to process more aliens coming to the United States? To encourage more to come, have them come across the river, never mind being exploited by the cartels, then get put into this facility to be processed and released into the United States.
But without the view of the cameras. Every single person in America now can say that they know some family, somebody in their town that died of a fentanyl overdose. So that's coming from China, through Mexico, across our southern border, and into your town.
So wait a minute, man. These men right here are identifying multiple problems due to a border that is not secure. We got illegal immigration. We got human trafficking. We have rape. We have drug trafficking. All of those things are coming across that southern border. But for some reason, the Biden administration can't solve the problem. Then you have to ask yourself, well, how did Trump solve it? How did he get all of these border crossings down to 30,000 in 1 month before he left office? But yet Biden comes in and he breaks records going the opposite direction. So either the people he hired to solve the problem are very incompetent, which then he should fire them, or he's okay with them not solving the problem because that problem is not a problem for the Biden administration. It's a solution. See, so therefore they're not incompetent, they're evil. They want these people coming here because these people provide new voters. Now, all you got to do is just start putting pieces of this puzzle together. They also want to eliminate having to show voter IDs. And they're using black people as an excuse when yet black people have never went to them and said, I can't vote because I don't know how to get an ID. But yet they're still pushing it. Are they pushing it because they care about black people? Or are they creating the path for all of these people that's coming to be able to go in and just say, trust me, my name is Jose Rodriguez and I come to vote for President Biden? See? So they're not incompetent. They're evil. Let's continue.
That's national security, that's border security, that's health security, and our country and the leadership in this administration is not providing it at this time.
Wow.
And I know so the gentleman knows that we're feeling that impact in Texas. He just mentioned fentanyl. We just got the new data from the CDC, 117,000 dead Americans.
More problems.
Yet nothing but crickets coming from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They don't care about 117,000 dead Americans.
No.
Directly as a consequence of Chinese-produced fentanyl pouring through cartels through Mexico into the United States. Nothing. Crickets. Have you seen a bill on the floor of this body to deal with that? Have you seen any efforts by our friends on the other side of the aisle to secure the border of the United States legitimately or force the hand of Secretary Mayorkas to actually enforce the policies of the United States? And very specifically, we have a discharge petition at the desk with every signature of Republicans, but not one Democrat willing to go to the Democrats leading the administration and say, we need to secure the border of the United States and enforce the policies, including Title 42 and whatever it takes to secure the border.
Now, isn't that ironic that he identified all of these problems? Fentanyl, drug trafficking, rape, murder, all of that, illegal crossing, all of these problems that Chip just identified, and yet no Democrat went over there to sign anything or force anyone to actually discourage these people from coming. Notice they never provide solutions that will deter people from coming. All they are doing is providing solutions that will allow these people to come and allow them to streamline these people and process them and shove them into our country more efficiently. So they're not there to solve the problem. They are the people who created the problem. And the solution to them is, let's process these people. Let's go ahead, build a tent for them. Let's make sure that nobody can see our diabolical scheme by building a fence around that, even though fences are supposed to be, racist or something. And then let's use taxpayers' dollars to fly these people all around the country wherever they want to go and give them cell phones and stuff like that so they can eventually become Democrat voters. All of their choices are leading to enhancing the problem and not solving it. I think these people are evil. Let's continue with our experiment.
Madam Chairman, right here on this floor, the president came and gave his State of the Union and said he wanted to secure the border.
Oh, I remember
That's what the president said.
Did he lie?
Wanted to secure the border, yet the fentanyl keeps coming in.
As we sit here today, that we had a number of issues that are of paramount importance to the American people.
Like what, Chip?
And one of which, of course, being from the state of Texas, is the state of our border.
True.
Today, official numbers came out from Border Patrol that there were 234,088 encounters in April. Of those, some 96,908 were turned away under so-called Title 42 under our health codes. But what that means is that at least 137,180 were released into the United States. And perhaps more. 1,300 pounds of fentanyl intercepted.
Now, guys, those are major problems. You would think if your job was really to secure that border and solve those problems, you would have a sense of urgency. You would be doing things to really deter people from coming across that border. All you got to do, if you want to know if these people are evil versus incompetent, look at other countries who have secure borders. Why is it that all of these people don't feel comfortable rushing through the Canadian border, going across the Russian border, North Korea, or even some of the more friendlier countries? They don't just rush across their border because there are things you can do that will make people realize by doing this, there's a severe consequence and there's not going to be a reward. of them saying, go ahead into the country and enjoy yourself and come back in 8 years. See, so all of the choices are counterproductive to solving the problem, which means you're evil and not incompetent.
And I think that what most people don't understand, and some even in this body, is that when you think about operational control of the border, you're assuming that the administration wants to stop people from illegally crossing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would assume. If your job description says you are supposed to secure the border and make sure people don't come across that bad boy illegally, and yet somehow all your choices seem to be opposite of your job description. So now I have to wonder if your hidden job description is to allow these people to come, knowing that you're not even going to be in jeopardy of losing your job for not being productive, because really your job was to create and enhance the problem and continue to lie to us about, no, I'm solving it. What are you talking about? Let's wrap this session up.
You're thinking that they're about border security and about national security. We actually vote in this body, as you know, to fund at higher levels, Border Patrol, ICE, and many on our side of the aisle even voted for it, either unwittingly or knowing that this administration was actually going to use that money not to stop people from coming across the border illegally, not to uphold the law, not to stop the invasion that is guaranteed by our Constitution to the states, but to actually become more efficient at processing individuals coming across the border illegally and moving them very quickly into the interior of the country. They use the money so that they don't have the optics of what's happening at the what happened at the Del Rio Bridge, right? That's why they want it to be more efficient. They don't want the optic of people huddling underneath a bridge coming from some other countries or some other places illegally and not having anywhere to go. And the squalor and the potential crime element that is associated with it, since they don't want that optic, what they've used is the money that's been appropriated, the additional money, not to mention all the money that's already been appropriated, to move them more.
Y'all see? You see what I'm talking about? See, it's not hard. Once you start understanding the simple principle of cause and effect, if you are supposed to be solving a problem, but your choices are opposite of your job description or your supposed goal and objective, then most likely you're not incompetent. No, you're evil. If you're a politician, you're evil. Now, in the Democrats' case, many of them are dumb. You got Hank Johnsons. You're going to have your Federicos. You're going to have your Mad Maxes. You're going to have a lot of them. Your Jerry Nadlers, your Adam Schiffs. He's really evil, though. He's evil, but he's also dumb. You're going to have those people. But the people behind the scenes, which is driving and pushing Joe Biden's buttons, those folks are actually smart. They're smart and diabolical. Joe's dumb and evil. They knew they could use a dumb, evil person to really get their agenda across. So it's not Joe that everybody should be looking at. We already know he's blown out. It is the evil, diabolical people behind Joe that is enabling this. So what this man right here is saying is that these folks used all of that money, not for us, just like they sent that baby formula down there to illegal immigrants. So all that money, instead of using it for us, they used it to fly these folks around and stuff in this big old nice tent and fence so they can hide this diabolical scheme like they tried to do with that Boeing 747 on the tarmac in the middle of the night. Let's go ahead and finish this out. Hopefully you'll use this as a training tape to identify the difference between an incompetent leader versus an evil leader.
Efficiently into the interior of the country. So when the secretary says he has operational control, sure, they're operationally controlling the influx of illegal aliens. On that charge, they're actually doing very well. Unfortunately, the American people are suffering right now under horrific high prices that they barely can afford, whether it's for fuel in their car.
The American people are suffering because of the Democratic policies that are causing harm to them, driving up prices, making it impossible for them to have reliable grid, reliable energy. We're sitting on a mountain of it in this country.
Why won't we use it?
And we're exporting liquefied natural gas from this country. CO2 is going down. We're not relying on China. We're sticking it back on them, and our people are benefiting and prospering. The Democratic agenda is stop that, go beg China, and then pay more for your goods and services. And then what does Joe Biden say? What does Jen Psaki say in all of her infinite wisdom heading off to MSNBC after she accuses our Border Patrol agents of whipping people? She says, oh, buy a Tesla.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. They laid it out beautifully. They went through all of these problems. I went through all of these problems with you as well. All you got to do is ask yourself, hey, that's a good question, Chip. Why then are they outsourcing all of our goods and services to China? Why are they allowing them to buy up all of this land over here? Why are they destroying our gas and energy sector while relying on some of our enemies for gas or energy and so on and so forth? Why are they doing everything that seems to be counterproductive? It doesn't sound like they are America first. That doesn't sound like they are looking out for the people. It sounds to me like they're looking out for themselves and some larger global agenda that has nothing to do with us. We happen to just be the pawns. We happen to be right in the middle of their goal and objective, and they're willing to run right through us by not addressing things that would solve the problem. Everything that these folks listed that the Democrats have made decisions on since Biden been in office are counterproductive, yet they're telling you we're working on it as the problems increase and get worse. So we have two choices. We are to either believe that they're very dumb and incompetent, or we have to conclude that these people know what they're doing and they're doing it on purpose, which makes them evil and not incompetent. So there you have it. I hope y'all use this training tape when making choices in the future so we don't end up with a brain dead president again, a raggedy behind fake Kamala Harris as a backup quarterback, and the do nothing, don't solve no problems, dirty douchebag, gangrene, snag-a-tooth, collard greens, smelling cabbage sitting out in the sun for 8 days straight, slimy snot pus filled dumpster juice, peanut doo-doo corns inside of it, smelling like razzmatazz. Democrats. God bless you. God bless America. See y'all next time. Kevin's Corner. Take care. God bless you. God bless America. Don't forget to hit that like button, share my videos, find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. And please check out Extreme Teas, my sponsor. If you like their products, please click on the link below this video. Put Kevin in a promo code. You'll get a 20% discount. If you'd like to donate to Kevin's Corner, feel free. The links are below this video. If you want to be a part of my $2 a month club, also feel free to do that. All it entails is you simply dropping $2 a month into one of those links below the video. Or if you want, you can drop a nice big fat lump sum in there to offset the stuff that we know goes on with big tech. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Make sure that you are still subscribed. And finally, set your notification button to all, because YouTube is playing games, y'all. Now, God bless you. God bless America. See y'all next time in Kevin's Corner.